Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Maulika Sadela. My student number is 114 from TBIC class. Here I will explain about the function of oral language. Here I will share my screen. These 5 components of oral language. The first is develop listening and speaking skills. And the second, teach a variety of spoken text. And third, create language learning environment. And four, teach and extend vocabulary and conceptual knowledge. 5, promote auditory memory. Definition of oral language. Oral language is the child's first, most important, and most frequently used structured medium of communication. It is the primary means through which each individual child will be enabled to structure, to evaluate, to describe, and to control his or her experience. In addition, and most significantly, oral language is the primary mediator of culture, the way in which children look at themselves in the world and define themselves with it and within it. Jadi oral language itu most important and hal yang paling penting dan media yang pertama yang harus dikenalkan untuk anak. Function of oral language, most of which occur in a social context. The purpose of this assessment are limited in scope. Relates to children's ability effectively use semantic or meaning and syntactic function and grammar. Using system while communicating to support the learning of reading and writing skills. The first one is develop listening and speaking skills. This means a primary way of helping children participate as a listeners and speaker in conversation is for teachers to model good listening and speaking technique themselves. Introduction about develop listening and speaking skills. The first is get down to their eye level. The next treat children as if they are skilled at conversation. Give them your full attention and focus on what they say. Speak to all children and ask children questions about things to which you do not know the answer. Sometimes this kind of questioning or responding takes more deliberate probing and time for children to develop this skill. Help children learn to listen to one another. When attention is wandering, it is best to bring closer to the activity and transition to something else. Limit group time discussion. Value all the home language. Help children learn to listen and to ask questions by having show and ask rather than show and tell. Wanted to be taught. First, awareness of broad rules that govern social interaction and non-verbal behaviors, rules for listening and rules for speaking. So here I will explain the second point, one and second point. The first, awareness of broad rules that govern social interaction. In order to teach speaking and listening skill, teachers will need to create awareness of the way conversation works by considering the rules to be observed by good speakers and listeners. And non-verbal behaviors by creating awareness around the expressive nature of the way a person uses their body and voice. Teachers can help pupils to become critically aware of the nonverbal behaviors that will equip them to express themselves in an effective manner. Developing speaking skills have 6 points. Explicitly model effective speaking in a formal and informal manner. Provide opportunity for students to engage in conversational style speaking. Give students tasks that involve observing and recording effective speaking. Use role-playing to teach and reinforce good conversational skills. Carry out activities where the whole class read aloud. Teach the rules that govern social interaction as mentioned above. The second point, teach a variety of spoken text. The function instrumental, regulatory, interaction, heuristic, imaginary, and representational. And the third point, create a language learning environment. A language learning environment can be created by focusing first physical environment, classroom culture, and opportunities for communication. Physical environment by enriching the physical environment of the classroom, multiple opportunities for engaging oral interaction and development will exist. Classroom culture by enhancing the physical environment of the classroom we create multiple opportunities for engaging oral interaction and development. Opportunities for communication, taking advantage of current communication opportunities, students can be exposed to multiple oral language, contexts, and uses. Ways of developing the physical environment. Work area for instruction and whole group activities. Work samples of topic-related resources. Creative area, toys, dress-up, clothes, creative equipment. Collection of puppets to encourage retelling favorite songs. And the last, telephone and message pads to practice conversational and inquiry skills. Ways of developing the classroom culture. Create a classroom culture of have a goal. Be sensitive to cultural differences. Emphasize enjoyment for all. Value social talk and the use of language used in the home. And explicitly teach students to take turns in groups. Ways of developing opportunities for discussion. Model good listening to children. Model using specific language to the children. Example, retelling stories. Provide role-playing opportunities to experiment with language. Read aloud to the children every day. Provide puppets for felt-board stories to retell favorite stories. The fourth point is teach and extend vocabulary and conceptual knowledge. Vocabulary is important for children to develop knowledge of words meaning from an early age, and to this end, they need to be actively engaged in vocabulary development. Teaching vocabulary need to plan for individual words learning strategies, phrasing and loves of words, and expertise for using words. Individual for words, synonyms, antonyms, short words, and suffix. And word learning strategies, definition, word in context, and word maps. Phrasing and loves of words, multiple meanings, words of the week, and games. experiences for using words, reading, writing, and oral language. Activities to support vocabulary development. The first is works, banks, or word wall. For example, synonym for their readings, books, or library, books, and etc. Chain game. For example of how chain writing activity is structure outline. How many meanings? Example, money bank, a river bank, a bank of clothes, the aeroplane bank suddenly, a blood bank, cars bank up at traffic lights, to bank on someone. Text innovation. The example below show how a nursery rhyme, for example, can be innovated. Picture word inductive model. This is an activity that can be done with the whole class, a small group, or individually. And last, semantic gradient. Begin with antonyms or opposites at each end of the continuum. The 5th point, promote auditory memory. Auditory memory involves the ability to assimilate information present orally, to process that information stored in and recall what has been heard. How to develop auditory memory skills? Repeat and use information. Recite poems, songs, tales, rhymes, etc. Memorize and sequence songs. Retell stories, example fairy tales, myth. Play memory games, Kim's game, Guess Who, Simon Says, My Grandma Went Shopping and Bought Me a Chinese Whispers. Recall verbal message or phone numbers. Activity from the book Auditory Processing Activities. Teacher assigns new names to the class. Activity: clap your hands, say the name of your best friend, and stand up. Teacher reads some sentence twice. Activity: Sen and Dana are twins. They look so much alike that you cannot tell one from the other. Teach reads a group of words. Activity: say, see, or seal, game, girl, good, pair, poor, and pond. Teacher asks some question. Activity: what could you growing on in a forest? What could you find living in a zoo? What could you find a grocery store? Teacher reads a series of short stories. Everything short story. Like Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast, etc. Teacher asks questions that only have numbers as their answers. Activities: how many openings does a fishbowl have? How many colors does a zebra have? Something like that. Developing oral language with your child. Infant under first class until first class. Listen your child saying, explain the meaning of words, talk activities. Second and fourth class, talk about the child's favorite, talk about school topics and an assignment, play language games. 5 and 6 class, discuss your child's school work, respect your child's opinions and feelings, play commercial games that focus on word building. Okay, that's enough for me. Thank you for attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.